What was the story? So, when I booked for Gommel, I made a mistake that I had never made before, which is I booked the wrong weekend. So I had my flight booked like 2 months in advance, and for a while I thought everything was fine. The Sunday before I left for the trip, I realized that my flight information was just totally and utterly wrong. Like, I just completely realized it was wrong. So, I had to reschedule my flight. Or, not reschedule, I had to cancel it for flight credit and try to book another flight. So, that's what I did. And there was legit one flight. One singular flight. Also, I cannot play Gluga without focusing. This was a bad idea. This weapon is, like, weird. And I am not thinking. Wait. Damn it. I'm stuck. Okay, we're gonna play something else. And then let me timestamp the screen real quick and then I'll get the story. Because we lost. We'll just play something simple. We'll play, like, something simple. Story till later. No, we're gonna story till now. Okay. Because I'm not gonna be able to play well anyway. I'm exhausted. So, anyway. TLDR, I had to get a new flight. There was one option, and I mean only one option, that worked. Everything else was like $1,000 or more, or it had like a 35-hour travel time. So, like, there was one real option, and I took it. I didn't want to cancel the trip, obviously, this close to it, so I took it. Hi, Pink Puffy Pastry, thank you for the raid. So I took it. We're gonna switch. What can I play, like, easily, I guess? Like a brush, maybe? Oh, I don't have order brush? I also... No, I have the paintbrush one. I guess we can play order brush. Yeah, I can do order brush. Okay. So, I got the flight. Now, my flight going there was fine. You know, it left a little early in the morning, but it was pretty easy. It was still a layover. I lost my direct flight, obviously, but it wasn't too bad, right? It was a normal flight. I got there. I had the whole LAN experience. I arrived a little later on a Friday, but it was fine. Then was the flight back. Now, the flight back was always going to be the nightmare flight because it left in the evening. And of course, I get kicked out of the room at like 11 a.m. So I have to go to the airport already really early. So I left the house at, I'm going to convert this to PST. I left the house at 7:30 a.m. PST. That's when I left to go to the airport. So my flight got delayed 3 times. My flight got delayed 3 times before I actually got on it. It got delayed about a total of 2.5 hours. Now the problem is my connecting flight had an 1.5 hour layover, and the delay was longer than that, which means I lost my second flight back. So I open the airline app and I refresh the flights, and I see horrible news. There's only 2 flights on Monday, and both of them suck to get all the way back. But I say, screw it, I'll take it. I select the first one. I hit the switch. Error on the website. Doesn't work. I refresh. The flight is gone. I select the next flight. It once again has a problem. Crashes. Guess what? Also gone. And now there is no flights on Monday. There's just no flights, which means I can't come back until Tuesday, and I am going to be stranded in another airport. So that already looked really bad, but luckily, eventually, another flight showed up again on Monday, and I rebooked to that. So now I got home a little later than midnight or so, sometime around then. But I thought, whatever, that's fine. So I get in line for my next flight, right, to go to the connecting airport before I go home. I get in line, and I'm in line with everyone else, right? I'm like, other people are ahead of me. I think they just call it business class or like group 1 or whatever, right? And the line just stops. It just stops. And there is no explanation as to why. Everyone is just standing there, and they're not telling us anything. We're all just standing there for, I think, about 20 minutes. And then eventually, they just start boarding people onto the plane again. No explanation at all. Nothing. We didn't find out any info. They just said, sorry for the slight delay. Now, I don't know about you guys, But if a delay is multiple hours long, I don't think it should count as a slight delay. Do we agree on that, chat? Is that like a thing we can agree on, right? I think that makes sense. It shouldn't count as a slight delay. Okay, just figured, you know. That's how I see it. So I thought that was a little off, but okay. We get on the plane, and the plane just won't leave. Every step of the way into getting out of this airport is delayed. The before, the line, and then we're here packed into the airplane, sitting at the gate, waiting for some new equipment or some bullshit like that. And we're still just not leaving. That's delay number 5, plus a new flight I counted as number 6. Then, finally, almost 3 hours later, but not 3 hours, remember that, almost 3 hours later, off our original flight time, we left the airport. And finally, we are leaving. Luckily, my connecting flight now leaves really late in the day, so even though this flight got delayed even more, I'm still en route to make my next flight. I'll have about an hour layover in the airport, but it'll be possible. We'll have a way to salvage it. What the hell is going on in this game, guys? I really don't understand. Anyway. So I land in our connecting flight, and I get immediate news that the flight is delayed. Wasn't delayed too much, so I was like, you know what? Whatever. Gives me time to go eat some food. I can relax. I can take a second. At this point, I'm used to it. Whatever, right? I get my food. I eat my food. I go, I sit and wait. And again, flight is delayed. That's number 8. And they say it's because, like, I don't remember the reason for this one. There was some reason. They did communicate the reason. It was something stupid, and they're like, okay. Yeah, we gotta wait. So we're like, okay. And now we're just waiting again. And we're waiting again. Then, they finally let us on the plane. We get on the plane, and guess what happens next? When we're on the plane, there's again a delay with leaving the gate. For some fucking reason. And I don't remember why. So that was delay number 9. We sat in the gate for a while. Eventually, we took off. We fly all the way back. I got to see, like, a really cool storm from the air. Like, that we weren't in, but near enough, so I could see, like, the lightning flashes. That shit was really cool. That went crazy. We're flying into the airport, and then they go, hey, guys, we can't fly into the runway this way. We're gonna have to loop and fly in this other way. And so, again, we're delayed on the descent. Now, I have sensitive ears, right? If you've seen me at LANs, you know I wear noise-canceling headphones and all that shit. That already makes the experience really annoying. That's already a problem I have to deal with. But descending down an airplane is the worst possible experience for me. My ears fucking hate it. It feels miserable. This is the worst place to get a delay. And that was delay number 10. I don't know if I explained all of the delays, but that was the last one. We landed in the airport, which, by the way, was a completely different airport than where I was supposed to land in originally, but, like, I didn't give a shit at this point. I had a long drive home, and then I made it home at about 2 a.m. And I unpacked and all that, and then eventually went to bed and ended my day. So that was my 3rd worst experience with American Airlines. And truly, you know, I understand that shit goes wrong, right? In the aviation industry. I understand that, like, flights can be delayed and stuff like that. But if you're gonna delay something, be upfront, give proper options, and most importantly, give proper compensation. So let's talk about the financial compensation. Try Air Canada. Okay, you weren't here for the beginning of the story as to why I was on this flight in the first place. I didn't have a choice. I did not have an option of where I was flying with. I already knew American was shit, but they were the literal only option. So I had to fly them. I did not have a choice. I will not fly them unless I have no choice in the future. And I recommend the same thing for anyone else. Okay. Anyway. I'm definitely not going to be Team Air after. Yeah, maybe not. I might pick a different team this time. If I didn't pick Air already, we might change after this experience. Anyway. 3rd worst. Okay, we'll get to that. I'll tell the other stories in a minute. So, what is it? Anyway. Financial compensation, right? So I looked into if there was a way to be compensated for the numerous delays, because I had an 18-hour, travel time from leaving the room to getting home. Part of that was having to stay at the airport, but a lot of that was also these new delays. So I looked into it, and luckily Canada, being the awesome country that it is, seems to have some kind of law about compensation if your flight is significantly delayed. Unfortunately, it looks like the benchmark for the delays is 3 hours. Now, I was delayed by more than 3 hours, but that's counting both flights together, both the new flight that I had to rebook. Dude, that's the craziest part. I don't even have to count the delay of switching flights. The delay of both flights combined is longer than 3 hours. But because it's two planes, I'm 90% sure it doesn't count. And I looked at where I'd have to submit the case, and it's submitting it to American Airlines, which means I'm almost certain it won't count. Now, I might still try it. I might still try and argue for it. But I don't think it'll work. If it worked, I'd get 400 CAD. Which would make it worth it, obviously. I would be okay with this all if I got 400 CAD. That's worth the delays. But it's probably cooked. Right? But I will try submitting it. But because it's two different flights and it's submitting to American, and one of those flights is in the US, and this law is in Canada, I don't expect it to work. They're probably just going to say that they don't care. And I also think that because of another experience I have. So, yeah. If you don't have Splatoon 3, you should get Splatoon 3. Splatoon 4 probably won't happen in a bit because they're making a spin-off. And the spin-off is not going to have multiplayer stuff. So I would recommend getting it if you want. Ace, thank you for the membership. I appreciate it. Anyway. Jordan, thank you for the raid. Hi, we were talking about flight experience horror stories today. The one that happened on the LAN, and now we're going to talk about the two worst ones. I hope your stream is good. Okay. So. Other experiences. This one was at Low Tide City. It's a LAN in Texas, right? I'm competing on a Sunday. And all of a sudden, I get a notification and they go, hey, we rebooked your flight to Tuesday. Like, not it was delayed, not anything. They automatically put me on a different flight a day and a half later of when I was supposed to leave. I didn't ask her anything. That's just what happened. I got put on that. Now, I do not have a room on Monday. So obviously there's a bit of a problem here. I can't spend 24 plus hours in an airport, and I have nowhere to go, and I obviously don't want to spend like an extra $200 to get a room for an extra night somewhere doing, like, what the hell am I even supposed to do? So, I tried to use the app to change the flight, and there was no options. I wouldn't get any selection, anything. And unfortunately, I have a lot of travel anxiety. I am not good with traveling. I stress about it. I pack days beforehand. I organize like a bunch of shit into multiple different Ziploc bags. I pack like extra shit. All that stuff, right? I'm not good with traveling. So my tournament run got fucking ruined. Like, I cannot focus on the rest of the tournament because I am stressed out of my mind as to what the hell I'm going to do over the next 2 days. And I'd lose out on work, obviously. I'd lose, like, more of my work hours, which makes the flight, it makes the whole thing less affordable. What ended up happening is I had to get on the line after, in my room, with American Airlines. We had to get on the phone, and I had to constantly argue, like, hey, I need to go back tomorrow. I need to go back tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. And it was, like, a multi-hour call experience. Everyone else is having fun after the LAN. I'm here on the phone trying to get a fucking flight on Monday. Just to get a fucking flight home. And eventually, a flight appears that, you know, oh, there is actually a flight on Monday. I can do a connecting flight and go to a different airport and get home late at night, but at least I can get home. And ended up being what I was doing. And that was like a fairly normal experience from there. I connected to some different airports I hadn't been to. But like, I eventually got it. But why the hell did I have to call them? Why did I have to argue for hours? Why did they automatically switch my flight with no explanation? Why did any of that happen? And that was strike one for American, right? That was like my first time working with them, or second time. You know, that was my first real big situation with them. That was like my first, you know, red flag. The other one was something that happened to someone with me at Riptide. So at Riptide, the same shit that happened to me happened to someone else I knew. They had their flights changed to a time they literally could not do. They would have missed out on too many things, they didn't have a room, etc. They had the same situation. So, having experience with this, I got on the phone with them again and talked with them again to do the same thing, right? Oh, okay, we'll just do the same thing as LTC and they'll have another flight. Except this time, that didn't happen. Instead, they go, okay, if we don't have any flights with our airline, you can cancel the flight, we'll give you a full refund, and you can book with another airline. And they gave me like a ticket number for the refund. The agent seemed very nice. And then, boom, I was able, you know, I had that. So I'm like, okay, you can cancel your flight now. I told them to cancel the flight. They booked a new flight. Cost like $230 or something. Somewhere along those lines. But okay, that situation was settled. Little inconvenient, but they were able to get back home. All fine and dandy. Can you guys guess what happened next? I really do wonder how this story is going to end. Let's take a guess in chat. What happens next? No, the other flight was on a different airline. It worked totally fine. There was nothing wrong with the new flight we booked. They didn't refund you. Exactly. I just don't get a refund for a while. So eventually, I call American Airlines again a few weeks later, and I'm like, hey, we submitted this ticket, and I was told I'd get a refund, and I explained why and the situation, and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then eventually I get an email, and they go, sorry, you can't get a refund. And they go, oh, actually, because you canceled the flight, instead of rescheduling, you can't get a refund. Which is completely different than what I was told on the phone the night I was there, obviously, when the flight was canceled. And because it was on the phone, I didn't have, like, any concrete proof, obviously, other than the support ticket, which I did give them the support ticket, and they didn't give a shit. So I ended up losing $230, because I booked the flight, I had stuff set up, I had the flight on my computer that I was helping them with, so I bought the flight. I said I would take care of it. Like, I would get the refund with the ticket, all that shit, right? So I took the price loss. I took the price loss myself. So I'm the one who ended up losing to $200. I didn't want to deal with that shit any further. I just took the loss. But yeah, they just changed their mind, and then I don't get a refund. So because of that, you guys can probably understand why I have so low faith that I'll get compensation for the 10 delays. Because considering it would barely fit into the clause anyway, I see like a billion loopholes they could use to get out of it. There's definitely no way. So there's definitely no way that would happen. Take him to court. Do you have any idea how much money I would lose taking an airline to court? And I would not win either. I'm not engaging in sunk cost fallacy. I know that shit is cooked. I'm leaving it. Instead, the only bad karma they get is me telling my horror stories. So guys, here's the moral of the story. Unless you absolutely have to, please don't fucking book American Airlines. Please don't. I have one more small story from them. And I want to make it clear here, I don't normally complain about this kind of stuff, okay? I normally don't complain about stuff regarding these kind of brands anyway, unless if it's really bad. In this case, I have 3 situations back to back to back that were all bad. But another thing I really never complain about is staff. Like someone who works in food service or airline service or anything. Because I totally understand that it's like, you know, it's a tough job. I get it. I usually never want to complain about people who work in that job. I usually never do. Because I get it. And I know that people make up a ton of bullshit. However. So, do you guys remember that first flight I told you about? The one where we had 5 delays. So we had 3 of them happen, and then we were in line, standing in line for a while. I had these 2 people next to me. right? I don't know them. They were just in line. They complained about the delays with me. We got off on the right foot, right? And they walk in to the check-in. Now, keep in mind, they look strained. They probably had to reschedule their own flights. They looked like they were having a bad time. They looked tired. And they obviously just dealt with a bunch of shit, right? They walk up to this person who's scanning all of the tickets, and they tell the guy, they're like, hey, you're in an emergency exit row. Can you, like, fulfill the requirements, right? And he goes, oh, I'm going to switch seats with my brother. He wants to have my seat. He'll be able to do it. And they tell him, no, you can't do that. So far, understandable. I don't know what the policy is. I can totally understand not switching seats. And they say, are you able to perform it? And he goes, yes. He goes, like, I guess yes, or like, I guess, or something along those lines. Something that wasn't 100% definitive. Clearly, because he's nervous and having waited a while and blah, 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 blah. Might not even be a native English speaker. All this stuff could have been happening. But the second he said that, this guy immediately tries to pull him aside and take away his seat. He's like, no, you can't do that. I'm going to have to put you over here. And literally pulls him aside. And I'm out here, I'm like, hey, I'm like trying to help out and be like, yo, I'm sure he can do it. He said yes after, calm down. You know, not exact wording, I'm paraphrasing, right? And then the person with him also complains, obviously, and she tries to get the attention. She tries to get the attention of another airport person who is standing like across a good bit away and like explains the situation. And so he asks the other airline person, then asks our airline person about like, hey, what's going on and all that, right? And they basically, and then that guy basically says, oh no, he didn't say he could do it. And then the other person leaves, and then she also gets pulled aside. And I get ushered through, I get checked in, and I get on my flight. Because like they're making me go. That also happened. Now, I don't know what happened with them. What's more than likely is that they just got a reassigned seat and still booked the flight and they just changed it with someone else, I would guess. And like, I totally get the airline policy of like, the person in the exit seat has to be 100% confident they can execute like the things required in case of an emergency. I totally understand that, right? That makes sense. I know those kind of policies are there. But also, when you're dealing with customers who you've actively fucked over for the past 2 hours, who are clearly strained from all that, and you're rushing them along, of course there could be mistakes in what they say. That's easily a mistake I could have made. I have social anxiety, obviously. If I was dealing with that situation after being stressed and being nervous, I could misspeak like that as well. Right? Totally possible. And in this case, there was no understanding. There was no attempt to resolve it. There was only an immediate ushering and rudeness to both of those people. And it was infuriating to see. Genuinely one of the most upsetting things I have been there. And again, I'm not trying to say that, like, I understand the exit policies and all that. That's totally fine. But holy shit. Like, dude. Calm the fuck down. If you're working in these kind of jobs, you also have to, like, have some respect for what your customers are going through, especially when they're going through so many delays and all that. And it just felt so rude and inconsiderate. Also, thank you for the raid, Mello. I'm sorry, I was, like, lost in the story. So that also happened on that flight experience. That wasn't obviously what happened to me. I just witnessed it being near them. But it was another experience where I'm like, wow, this is really, like, you know, I don't really have a bad experience with flight attendants or anything like that, but it's like, that was way far out of line. That went beyond having a bad day or being slightly rude or having some understandable situation. They took a situation that clearly just needed someone to take their time for a second and understand and just escalated it. And it was so rude to those people. So, like, yeah. Going forward, again, unless I absolutely have to, I am not going to book with American Airlines. And again, I did not want to book with them originally, and I only did because I had to. So, like, you know, and again, I will try for a refund, and if I ever do, or not refund, for, like, the compensation, if I ever do get it, I will make a post about it. But, again, given they literally didn't refund last time, let's be honest, we all know what's going to happen. I was not going to risk carrying them out. One, because I didn't want to become worse than them. And two, I could not miss this flight. I was already barely making it back home in time. So, you know, I had to make the decision of, like, prioritizing getting home at some point. And that's what I did. But yeah, I mean... Yeah, I could have just made it worse in that case. The last thing I said to them was just good luck. Which I don't know if that rung hollow or whatever, but that's what I said. I was just like, good luck. Like, I had nothing else to add at that point. It was up to them there. And, yeah. I didn't... My seat was at the very back of the flight, so I didn't see anything. Like, I never saw them got on the flight, but I easily could have missed it if they had, like, a seat anywhere near, away from the back of that very large plane. So, like, totally understandable that I could have missed it. But, yeah, I mean, that's what happened. Yeah. I mean, I hope I can get some finances back. That would be nice, obviously, but I already don't expect it. I don't even know if it's worth the time of filing the ticket, but I probably will. I actually have a lot of time to file the ticket according to that law, which is pretty cool, so I can wait. I am fine, by the way, guys. I'm okay. Like, I'm a little tired because of that. Like, I did not get much done today. I actually missed out on work anyway. I had to call off. I had to basically be like, I'm getting back at 2 a.m. I will not wake up in time. I had 10 flight delays. It's just not happening. And they were understanding about it, so, like, you know, that was fine. I still managed to get a lot of my catch-up work done today. Like, all the things that I had to do, like, content-wise and Splatoon-wise after. And this was the last one of my stream. So, yeah, I mean, that's the whole story. So, yeah, that's American Airlines nightmare fuel shit. I've had positive experiences with Delta. That's usually who I like to fly with. Delta seems to be very good. I've flown, like, Southwest for shorter flights. I know they're a bit of a cheaper one, but I was fine with them. I think I've had a fine Spirit flight. Like, obviously they're cheap, but, like, if you book a cheap flight and it works, it's fine, you know? It's the delays without any form of compensation that's the problem. And then I know some people give United shit, but I haven't had, like, a big negative experience with them. They have been a little more unreliable, but usually the delays they have been pretty small. And usually they don't, like, do any drastic changes or anything. I haven't had, like, any flight reschedules or something like that. But yeah, no, Delta is my favorite, and also they have free Wi-Fi. Oh, also, another thing that happened with the flight, I got to get Wi-Fi with my American miles. I basically have no American miles left. I just had a few left, and I got to get value out of them with the internet. I got to use my last miles, so... Yeah. There's no way your Spirit Airlines was a better experience than American Airlines? Yeah. Now, I've flown with a few cheap airlines before, like, with needed. And, like, you know, the lack of legroom sucks and all that. Like, you know, the usual restrictions that come with it, but it's like, you know what you're getting when you sign on board, right? That's, like, the deal. It's cheaper in exchange for being, you know, like, a little bit less of a pleasant experience. But, like, they're upfront about it. It reflects in the cost. I don't care. In this case, with American, like, I paid for that shit, and then I got actively fucked over, and nothing was given to me for it. So it's like, you know, I understand it when it's like, you know, the airline is just cheap. That's just how they operate. That's their little niche in the flying world. And, like, you know, I get it. What? The spark didn't kill? That's crazy. Yeah, he's known for breaking instruments and stuff. Yeah, well, I don't, like, ever check my bags, so... I wouldn't have experience with any of that. I check my bags as little as possible. I always try to just bring them on the carry-ons. I don't like to have them being lost, so... Oh, no, I'm not defending it if they break the instruments. I'm saying, like, I wouldn't know from my experience, because that's not something I bring, like, in general. So I wouldn't be able to verify anything. download long YouTube videos and play them on the plane. That is what I do. I do subscribe to that strategy. First time ever flying, and it doesn't seem too hard to not fuck up this bad. Don't worry, Ezio, it will happen to you at some point. Like, you will eventually deal with some kind of flight delay or cancellation. It's like an inevitable part of the experience. You fly enough, it'll happen to you. But I'm glad your first one was fine. Try to stick to, like, better repped airlines. Book tickets in advance to make sure you can, like, pick the stuff you want. Be careful when booking. That's, like, all the main advice I can really give. It's like, if you do all that, you'll be good. I should probably, like, actually talk about GOM a little bit. So, outside of the flight experience, the team experience for Gamma was also the most scuffed team experience I ever had. So, I was always going to compete with Mecha. That was always the plan. And originally, we were going to compete with Max. However, Max wasn't able to go, and we didn't find that out until later. You know, he warned us it was probable, but we waited to be sure, and Max couldn't go. So we were a month before the event as a group of 2. Lux mentioned they could go. I know Lux, obviously. She's a very good anchor player. Been, like, retired from comp for, like, 9 months, I think, but getting back into the game, like, since the 10.0 update. And she said that, like, she could go. If she would compete on the team, then she would go. So we got Lux, and then we could not find anyone else. We could not find anything. I remember I was messaging Siren, one of the people running the event, and they're like, yeah, everyone there is a group of 2 right now. I don't know anyone you could do. And it got to the point where we were literally... She was like, oh, I know some people who are local to the area I can ask around. And that's how we got Cobb. 2 weeks before, just a few days before Red closed, Cobb basically said they could go. And apparently they were a former high-level player in Splatoon 2. They were on Duck Dollar Bills. And I got to meet and hang out with them and play with them. But it was, like, legit 2 weeks before. So, Mecha just got back to the game after a few months. Lux got back to the game after a few months. And then Cobb hasn't played, like, comp seriously since 2019. So we had, like, the most scuffed shit ever. We were basically playing catch-up on, like, getting our players acquainted with what the game is like now. Mostly me and Mecha trying to help the other 2 out with, like, just catch-up from not being there. Siren talked about helping you out during Com Block. Yeah, Siren, like, clutched up this entire trip. Like, big shout-outs to her. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we did pretty good. I was hoping to get second, obviously. I didn't really have any big hopes of beating Moonlight, but, like, I do want to give a big shout-out for my team. I feel like we were expected to get second. I feel like that happens because I'm on the team. Because I'm there and, like, people have a certain rep of me, we were, like, expected to get it. But, like, realistically, all of them had to work really hard to catch up ahead of time. And, like, within 2 weeks and a scuffed comp, that, like, we didn't... Our comp was so fucked. Our comp was so bad. We literally did not have an aggro. Like, a real aggro at all. We had Pro, Dooley, and Dread. Which is why when we lost our first round, I immediately knew, I was like, I'm gonna have to play aggro. Like, Mecha didn't want to play Sword. He didn't feel confident with it. I wanted Cobb on a comfort pick. And I agreed that he should, like, play Shot. Because the Dooley stuff didn't work. Their comp, like, shit on V-Dooley. And shit on Bubble. So I was basically like, I'm gonna have to play S-Blast and Stamper. I get Mecha to turn on a hotspot so I can update my S-Blast gear. Because I don't have the 4-sub saver. I have to, like, update my gear, find my sword gear. And then in one of the losers rounds, I'm literally swapping and trying out S-Blast and Stamper, trying to figure out which one I could play. And we dropped the game because of that. Like, I played a horrid Stamper game. I felt so bad. But I was like, guys, I have to know later down the line. Right? But eventually I was like, okay, my S-Blast is probably doing the better one. I wasn't experienced with the frame nerf, so I didn't feel confident with my aim. But I was like, I know I can play heavy AoE mode, like short range, because of the comp they have. They don't have fast kill times either with the Wiper Dread and T-Tech. So I was like, I can be like a short range merchant, and I can throw Booyah at them, and it'll probably be fine, and that's what I did, and we locked in, and we were able to get the run back. And it was still really close, but we made the adaptations necessary. So I ended up being a frontline guy. I ended up coming back to frontline for the losers bracket. Because I had to do it. Bran, thank you for the raid. But hey, it worked out. We got second, and then we lost to Moonlight. We definitely could have gotten a game. I played so bad in Grands. And I think we would have lost anyway, but I had some, like, audio issues with my setup the whole time. I don't know what happened. But, like, I was just having frequent audio issues of it, like, only playing in one ear. We had to change the mix amp out, like, twice and redo all the settings. So, that sucked. But that was the only big technical issue of the event. So, it still ran pretty smoothly. And then my ears were also just dying. Because of course they are. It's a LAN, it's loud, even with the noise-canceling headphones, it still, like, hurts after a while. And we were obviously there for, like, 5 hours. But despite that, I felt like we still held our own a bit, and I was still more than happy with second, so I had an overall really good time. Dude, my ears are still fucked today because of all the flying. Like, not as bad, but I definitely, like, feel like everything's a little muffled. I'm playing this for the license. But yeah. The city itself was a cool experience. I really liked Toronto. It seemed very, like, open. It seemed very fair. Like you said, yeah, I would definitely like to do another set where I can play, like, actual Dread into the whole thing. I wanted the Ditto, but I, like, had to swap for our comp, so. One day if I can, like, get aggros, I will do it again, hopefully. And then, yeah, Riptide I'm planning on right now. I don't, like, know who I'll team with for it yet. I don't really have any plans for it right now, but I will be there. So. If your ears hurt, stop playing video games. Why are you playing video games? No, they don't hurt right now. They're just muffled because of the air pressure from last night. They just take a bit to adjust back. Unless you mean at the LAN in which, like, yeah, I still like competing. I can test my own limits with it, obviously. Don't worry. Does popping your ears hurt? No, that helps a bit, but I couldn't clear it fully. Which is okay. Yeah, I didn't use any strikes. Wow. But yeah, that's everything, really, so. Yeah, and I also know my voice probably sounds a little off today, which I'm sorry if so. But hopefully it's, like, not too bad. I don't have custom earplugs. I have a noise-canceling headset I wear. But the problem with that is, what is it called? Eventually the crowd gets so loud that the noise goes through my teammates' microphones and I hear it. That's also why if you, like, watch me compete at LANs, I'm, like, yelling a lot. That's because I don't have a mic. So I have to talk loud enough for my teammates to hear me over the fucking crowd. Which means I end up having to just yell. To the point where the other team could probably hear me too. But, like, that's the literal only way I get heard. What's your headset? I don't remember. I got it, like, 2 years ago. Yeah, I know you can hear my comms. Like, I'm careful with what I say because of that. But there's, like, nothing I can do. When the venue's quieter, what's it called? I can talk normally and it's fine. But, like, when it's like that, I have to fucking yell because everyone around is being loud. Killed you on mine because I heard you say where you're going. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I try to make the callouts in a way where it's more obvious what I'm referring to my team, but, like, in the moment, I can't do it always perfectly. Or sometimes it's like, the callout's so important, I don't care if the other team hears it, right? I have sometimes had setups where I'm far away enough that the other team doesn't hear. Like at Genesis, they had the stream setups pretty far apart from each other. So the other team couldn't hear me there. And I didn't have to be as loud because we had some space from the crowd. But here there was like nowhere to watch. So everyone just crowded around us. So like I had to be loud because everyone's there. Luckily the event staff was like not allowing the clappers to be used during the games, which thank God. The clappers were, like, the worst thing for my ears. So them not being allowed to be used during the games legitimately saved me. Yeah, that's, like, a call I make normally. You can probably find it in some old tournament sets where I'll say the same thing in that kind of situation. I would just, like, literally just walk up and guard all the clam spawns. What is a clapper? It's like these little... It's like a little pair of plastic hands, and if you shake it, it claps. Like, continuously. So you just have a bunch of people with clappers just shaking them, and it makes a bunch of noise. They're usually at most LANs. And then, yeah, if you have problems like overstim or audio sensitivity, then, like, yeah, take competing at LANs carefully. I, like, used to be able to do it without a special headset when LANs were smaller. But since the S3 era, LANs are so much larger than they used to be. Like, people really don't understand how much larger and how much louder we are. Like, at LTC, we were louder than Smash. And, like, that was just straight up never a thing. We were never near that loud before. Yeah, ideally, I'd love to have a noise-canceling headset that's better and has a microphone and everything, but I couldn't find anything like that, and my headset was already $400 when I got it, so, like, the odds of finding something better are, like, kind of tough. And then, attachable mic was another thing I tried to look into, but I couldn't find anything that'd connect to my headset, so, like, when it comes to LAN stuff, trust me, I've thought about it. Unfortunately, what I have is probably the best I can get. So, like, I just go in with the expectation of, like, I will just not be able to play my best at LAN, and that's just how it is. Yeah, needing, like, alone time for the noise is, like, that was my mistake. Between rounds, I should have, like, walked out of the venue so that I didn't have to have the headset on for a bit and I could rest my ears. And I never did that, because we didn't have a whole lot of time. So I just kept them on for so long, and it, like, kind of creates a little bit of pressure to, like, keep the air out, you know, for, like, the noise canceling or whatever. Which is fine short term, but, like, after 5 hours, I think that's why my ears started to really hurt during Grands. I think I just wore them too long. Because I also feel that when I wear them for a shorter amount of time on a plane, like, I bring them on a plane in case it's loud, but I only wear them if I really have to, because I feel like it enhances the air pressure problem, so, yeah. Well, SoCali was really loud too, but that's because everyone was nearby. But SoCali was really bad for my ears, to be honest. That was, like, probably the worst it got. I was really, really miserable during the Grands. But, like, it was another case of, like, everyone is just crowding the setups, and that's why. I probably should have just been more vocal about, like, either asking people to stand further away or to try to be quieter, but, like, you know, they're all cheering for the other team. I don't want to come across as, like, being a dick for it, you know? Like, they're obviously enthusiastic about the upset. I don't want to ruin that, but at the same time, it's like, at some point, I gotta prioritize my own health a little bit more. But, yeah. I mean, this time it wasn't too bad, because when it got bad, it was at the end. Is this new? No. LTC, like, 2023, I think, was when it was the worst, because I didn't have my new headset. I literally had to, like, leave the room. And, like, my ears were ringing for, like, an hour. It was bad. But after that's when I got the headset. I was like, okay, I need actual equipment now. It is clearly too loud now. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. That's why, like, generally LANs, I just, like, compete. I don't really worry about it too much. Like, I highly recommend go to LANs for the experience. The tournament is fun, but, like, do not let the tournament be, like, more important than the experience you're having there. Don't let that ruin it. You only get so much time having, like, everyone around you in person. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Got some licenses and we told some United Airlines stories.